Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. Who's going to be the Raiders quarterback in 2023? Well, luckily for you, I got the top 10 quarterback replacements for the Raiders just in case Jimmy Garoppolo gets cut. If you're like, wait a minute, why would the Raiders cut Jimmy G? Well, you probably live underneath a rock here. I'm going to tell you why that could potentially happen. So he suffered a foot injury during the 2022 season, and then he had a broken medial and middle cuneiform along with a broken second metatarsal. After signing with the Raiders, he had surgery. Because he had surgery, his introductory press conference got postponed. Josh McDaniels said, nothing to worry about here. Here on the Raiders Report, I said that there was a report from a source from mine that he actually ended up failing his physical. Because he failed his physical, there are some unknowns right now that Garoppolo might not be ready to go for this season. Do I think that he's going to be ready? Yes. However, if Garoppolo can't pass a physical, the Raiders can cut him, and it's not going to cost them anything. So with that being said, I figured, all right, well, since there is at least a chance that Jimmy G isn't the Raiders quarterback this season, let's say that worst-case scenario happens. Raiders have to move on from Garoppolo. Sure, you save the money, but now you're stuck in a situation where you don't have a quarterback. So coming up here, I have the top 10 quarterback replacements for the Raiders in case Jimmy G gets cut, and I have them ranked from 10, working my way all the way down to 1. Before I show you who number 10 is, if you like these style of videos, I do these all the time. Not only do we cover news, not only do we cover breaking news, not only do we do beer bongs, all that other crazy stuff that you see on live, I like doing segments like this because it can help lay out other possibilities that some other channels might not be able to do. So take a second, hit that subscribe button, and if you like this show, hey, drop a review down below. All right, y'all, so here we go. Top 10 Jimmy G replacements. Coming in here at number 10, it's Jameis Winston. So the first one is actually a player that the Raiders would have to go out and trade for. The only reason why I'm throwing Jameis out here is because you know he is clear-cut number 2 behind Derek Carr. And if a team is willing to just move on from him, if the Saints are willing to move on from him, then the Raiders could potentially look at this option. I'll be 100% honest with you. I do not want the Raiders to get Jameis Winston. I don't think Winston would be that good of a fit in this offense. However, he is a starter. He has some games underneath his belt. And because he would come at a cheap price, I could at least see McDaniels and Ziegler maybe at least picking up the phone and trying to get a deal done. Let's go to number 9 here on the list. It's Nick Foles, and he's a free agent. You're going to see some free agents. You're going to see some trade candidates in this video. And just because I have them ranked doesn't necessarily mean it's how I would do it. It's me trying to illustrate to you what I think McDaniels and Ziegler would try to do on top of some of the best possibilities out there. Nick Foles is bad at football right now. I'm telling you that right now. This dude is as washed up as it humanly possibly gets. But, and this is a big but, and I cannot lie, what do I know about McDaniels? What do I know about Ziegler? If there's some sort of connection, then I believe that that's what they look at. Now, some of you are like, well, Mitch, I don't get it. What's the connection? The connection is Nick Foles played with the Chicago Bears. The Raiders and the Bears have a lot of ties. Yes, last season was with Indy, and that was an absolute disaster. I also know this. Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Because of that, I could literally see McDaniels and Ziegler being like, hey, I saw Nick Foles pull off the Philly special. This is a quarterback that we can win with. I hope this isn't the answer. I can tell you this. Nick Foles shouldn't be the answer. Now, guess what we're going to do here? I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's show. I know it's a crazy idea, but there is a possibility that Jimmy G might not be ready. I mean, he hasn't been the most durable quarterback in his career, right? So it's going to be the pinned comment, which means every single one of y'all that see this, you're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down why you're getting hit with that YouTube ad break. Why? Because the longer the ad plays, believe it or not, helps us out here. If Jimmy G is unable to play in 2023, who will be the Raiders starting quarterback? Let me know right now. Let's go to number 8 here on my Jimmy Garoppolo replacements. Cam Newton has to be on this list. Why? Like I said with Foles, if there's been a connection before, you have to at least look at it. Cam Newton was the New England Patriots starting quarterback in 2020. However, he was not good whatsoever in the McDaniels offense. A 65.8% completion percentage, 2,657 yards, 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, but you're not going to bring in Cam Newton for his throwing ability. If you're going to do it, you're going to bring it in for his legs. 137 carries 592 yards, 12 touchdowns, 55 first downs picked up. But that was back in 2020. I would imagine Father Time continues to win here. So because of that, Cam doesn't have as much ability to run. He's never really been that good of a passer. And this offense with Cam Newton, McDaniels' team, they were 27th in offensive red zone efficiency. I hope Cam Newton's not the answer. I don't think he's going to be the answer, but he does have to be on this list. Let's go to number 7 here for our Jimmy G replacements. Number 7's Matt Ryan. He's a veteran quarterback. And to me, I could see both McDaniels and Ziegler looking at a QB and saying, okay, I want somebody that I believe can execute my offense. Matt Ryan has never played in McDaniels' offense before, and he's coming off the worst season he had as a pro with the Indianapolis Colts. But here's the problem. He is a veteran, and I do think he would be able to pick up the offense relatively quickly compared to some other people out there. Why? Yeah, I look at Matt Ryan and Derek Carr as being actually kind of similar QBs at this point in both of their careers. DC is a better option than Matt Ryan. However, Ryan, to me, has worked in a few different offenses. Matt Ryan has at least been there, done that a little bit. And if you get put in a situation where it's almost worst-case scenario, because let's face it, you get put in that worst-case scenario and Jimmy Garoppolo is unable to play, that decision might come in August. Like, it might come at the end of July. I don't know when. It might happen in the very beginning of September. And if that ends up going down and you're like, we need to bring in another quarterback, you're probably going to look at a veteran. For that, that's why Matt Ryan's on this list. Another veteran that you could potentially bring in, and I sit up here and I look at this list right now, and I know, shout out to Husker Raider, repping the jersey. Husker's probably looking at this list as long as like I am, and I'm like, this list sucks. And you're right. The list of Jimmy G replacements, it does. It stinks. But that doesn't mean McDaniels and Ziegler won't try to bring somebody in. So for Wentz, back in 2021, I actually don't think he was that bad with Indianapolis. It was a run-first offense. However, ended up blowing it late. And last season with the Commanders, wasn't a good fit in the locker room. I just don't think he has that confidence, doesn't have that swagger anymore. So Carson Wentz comes in here at number 6. So we still got 5 more names. And if you've made it this far, shout out to you for making it through those first 5. It's definitely not pretty. And realistically, this list gets serious once I get into the top 4. So with that being said, let's look at number 5 here on my Jimmy Garoppolo replacements. It's Teddy Bridgewater. And Bridgewater, to me, would probably be cheaper than some of those other veterans that I mentioned, which is why I have him at number 5. On top of that, he has worked in the AFC West before. He's bounced around on some other teams, and he is like the perfect quarterback where he's not good at anything, but if you needed him to just execute your offense, Teddy Bridgewater, I believe, can do his best to execute an offense. He's bounced around with the Miami Dolphins. He's played with the New Orleans Saints. He's played with the Denver Broncos. I'm drawing a few blanks on all the teams that Bridgewater's played with. The Minnesota Vikings. Like, he has been there and he's played on some different rosters. So because of that, Teddy Bridgewater comes in here at number 5. Let's now go where this list gets actually interesting. Coming in at number 4, it's Tom Brady. And some of you are like, well, Mitch, he's retired. You're right. As it stands right now, Tom Brady is retired. Also, with Brady being a partial owner of the Raiders, a few things need to happen. Now, the first thing is, technically, the dotted line has yet to be executed for Tom Brady officially owning the Raiders. It's been handshaken. There's been a verbal agreement that, yes, Brady does own partial of the Raiders. But until that dotted line is signed, anything can still happen. Let's just say, though, the dotted line does get signed, and Brady is a partial owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, which is going to happen sooner rather than later. The reason why this is a little bit intriguing is because Brady then can't play right away. If you're a partial owner of a team, you actually need the other 32 owners to agree that Brady's allowed to play. And if you could push me full screen to explain this a little bit more, that'd be great. Like, I get that a lot of y'all, I see the FTBs in the chat. I get it. A lot of people, they don't like Tom Brady. But guess what? McDaniels and Ziegler do. And he was plan A. They went to plan B, and plan B failed with Garoppolo. What if plan A is open again? I get that a lot of people think like, oh, there's no way that 32 owners are going to approve of Tom Brady coming back to the NFL because Brady on the Raiders makes the Raiders a better football team, therefore might hurt somebody else. You know, the one thing I know about all owners? What do they care about? Money. There is not a single person out there that can look at me and tell me if Tom Brady goes to the Raiders and if Tom Brady comes back to the NFL, that not every single owner in the NFL, they're going to make more money. Yes or no? If Tom Brady is in the NFL, if he's on the Raiders have the highest tickets in the NFL, you're telling me that they're not going to make more money? Of course they are. And what do owners care about? More money. And I still think a lot of teams think even with Tom Brady, the Raiders aren't going to be as good as some of the other teams out there. So I do think that there is a legitimate chance that all 32 owners say yes. Why? Because it comes down to the dollar bills, y'all, and that's what owners care about. Before I show you my top 3 Jimmy Garoppolo replacements, I do have an update here around my Jermaine Illuminor wing eating contest at Barcode Burgers. We got to update the time. Well, unfortunately, we have to move it from noon to 3 p.m. Why? Well, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, they are in the Stanley Cup Finals, and Barcode Burger, he actually has a watch party event that day as well. So essentially, if you want to come hang out with Jeremy Chugs and I, just come to Barcode Burgers from 12 to 3, interact with me, other Raiders players, Colt Miller, Andre James, some other NFL players are going to be there. And then if you want to stay and watch the Vegas Knights game, you can do that with Chugs and I. We're going to essentially be there from what it sounds like all day. I know I also told some of y'all that I was going to do a Raiders tour of the stadium. Chugs and I are going to try to get there at 10 a.m., get in a little bit early because of this event. We are still planning on going, but not going to be able to go at 1:20 anymore. So essentially, time update, 12 to 3, wing eating contest, me, Jermaine Illuminor, and then if you want to see Chugs and I at Allegiant Stadium, we should be there around 10 a.m. or so. Let's go to number 3 here for our Jimmy G replacements. Mac Jones. Mac Jones has to be on this list. If I get the fact that the New England Patriots, they went out and they brought in Bill O'Brien, who worked with Mac Jones for 1 year at Alabama, and the last time you saw Mac Jones in 2022, he was not good. The locker room is split on him and Bailey Zappi. Here's the thing, though. The last time we saw Josh McDaniels and Mac Jones together, they went 10-7. They made the playoffs. Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler. I'm not the biggest fan of Jones, and I don't know exactly how much it would cost in a trade. But if Jimmy Garoppolo falls through, Jones has to be an option for that organization. Why? They love him. They like him a lot. And for that reason, he is number 3. Here's the thing, though. For Jimmy G replacements, I do think the top 2 most likely scenarios that end up happening are, well, first, what if they just roll with Brian Hoyer? They signed Brian Hoyer because they were confident that he could be a backup quarterback to Garoppolo, somebody that knew the offense and that could execute it. Now, I don't know how well they think he can execute it or how well he can play, because I'll tell you this right now, Brian Hoyer is not a top 40 quarterback, and I don't even think he's the best backup quarterback that we have on the roster. Has he played in a lot of games? Yes. I mean, here are his career numbers. Over 10,000 passing yards, 53 touchdowns, 35 interceptions. However, his career with the New England Patriots, it's 30 games and only 2 starts, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. However, that one of those starts came last season, and the only start that Brian Hoyer has ever had with Josh McDaniels came week 4 in 2020 against, guess who? The Kansas City Chiefs. In that game, Brian Hoyer threw for 15 for 24, 130 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. If the Raiders want to try to finesse their way into the T word, tank, you start Brian Hoyer for all 17 games, because with Brian Hoyer, I don't think you win more than 4 games, which sucks because you got Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs. You have a really talented offense. Because Brian Hoyer's that bad. To me, though, if you don't have Garoppolo, I get that right now Brian Hoyer's probably the backup to Jimmy G, because they want Jimmy G to be able to play, and they want Brian Hoyer to be able to groom Aiden O'Connell. If I'm the Raiders, though, and you don't have Jimmy G, there you have literally nothing to gain by Brian Hoyer. You know what Brian Hoyer is. Let's just throw Aiden O'Connell out there, man. Repping number 4. Let's see what the kid's got. Because if he's a success, well then shit, we got a good steal in round 4, pick 135. If he's no good, well then you're probably still really bad, and then you have another chance to go get Drake May. You have a chance to go out and get Caleb Williams. To me, the upside and the only move that you could possibly do is going out and starting Aiden O'Connell. Like, if you don't have Jimmy Garoppolo, this organization, they kind of put a lot of their eggs in this Jimmy G basket. I would say roll the dice and go Aiden O'Connell. That's what I would do. I also think it's what they should do. It doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do, because this organization, you never know exactly what's going to happen. But the top 10 most likely scenarios are the 10 that I laid out. I do see some other people putting some other scenarios in there, which I hear you. I respect. Like, I see Malik Willis right now in the comments. I see Trey Lance. The problem with those players isn't a lot of the other younger players, is because you're not going to know what happens with Jimmy G until probably July, until August. Shit, I hope it's not until September. If that happens, you're not going to go out and trade for a very young quarterback, because I'm not going to have confidence that they're going to be able to execute your offense. Because of that, they're going to go out and they're going to try to get a veteran, which is why you see a lot of veterans here on my list. So here are my top 10 Jimmy Garoppolo replacements for the Raiders if he is unable to go. Now, the replacements should probably also say the guy who I think ends up starting for Garoppolo if he does end up getting cut and the Raiders save all that money. Now, if they do roll with Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell and they still try to win football games, well then shit, I'm hoping that they use the money they save from Jimmy G and they try to go out and get somebody. If you want to take a screenshot of this, please do so. Tag me on Twitter, tag me on IG, at MitchellRenz365. So with all of this being said, I still believe that Garoppolo is going to be good for week 1. The sources I talk to, the people who I trust, they're all telling me Jimmy G should be good to go by week 1. The other problem is we know that Garoppolo has had a lot of injury concerns. We know that he's been a little bit soft in his career. So should he be good? Yes, but everyone's different. Even though I think he's going to be good to go, I still don't think he's going to play a full season. I do think it's only a matter of time before you see Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell out there on the football field for the Silver and Black.